Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. It's Asha McClanahan with Principles of Increase, where I help you discover and explore ways to increase in different areas of your life. And today I am talking about a subject that I hope will reach the right person at the right time, because this is advice I probably would have given myself 15 or 20 years ago, and maybe I'd be in a different place today. But my philosophy is no regrets. However, I do want to help someone who could be in a similar situation. So I want to give you a little bit of backstory why I am going to go into this topic, because it's something that I have personally dealt with, and as a financial blogger, writer, published author, speaker, all that stuff, I think it's helpful to be really forward looking, to say this is an issue you may not think about 20 years from now. So I want to bring that up, because if I had this advice long ago, again, maybe things would look a little different for me. And then a little more backstory for those of you who may be new to the channel, or this video is just popping up on your feed. I made my debut on the internet about 10 years ago, when I started a blog about how my family had paid off over $120,000 worth of debt. And it was just my way to mass mentor people, because a lot of people had questions like, how did you guys do this? What was the method? So I just talked about that on my blog. I got the attention of some editors in the personal finance space, and I started writing about that professionally as a freelancer, writing about different personal finance topics, getting out of debt, credit cards, mortgages, eventually crypto, and the list goes on. And during the time that I was writing, I also got to take people on this journey of me. Now that I'm debt free, I get to invest in real estate. I get to stay home with my kids, manage their acting and entertainment career. We get to travel. We started a short-term rental business. So I got to document all that, and it was super fun. Unfortunately, around 2019, I separated from the person I was married to, and then a few years later finalized a divorce on a almost 17-year marriage. And it was actually really rough, you all. I dropped off of the internet probably for a good 3 or 4 years, because I really went through a very tough, high conflict divorce, and just wasn't in the headspace to write about it, or just divulge some of the details. So now that I'm back for maybe about a year and a half now, I do want to talk more about what I went through, but in a way that's going to be educational and helpful for people. And I actually just learned about this idea of getting a prenup, but in a way that can protect everyone. So a lot of times we hear about prenups and we think that it's to protect the millionaire NBA player or high net worth individual from some money hungry woman who just wants to marry him for money, and then eventually leave, take half of the riches, and take the kids and get alimony and child support. And though those cases do exist, I would say that there is also a case for getting a prenup that protects women who can many times be vulnerable. They can be victimized by abusers. They can be, unfortunately, used for labor in a way that is not necessarily equal. For example, women can take off of work to raise kids. They can be the ones who are primarily involved in the care of the kids, even though they're also working. And I just want to be clear that I don't think those situations in and of themselves are abusive, but when there's an abuse dynamic in a marriage, abusers can use normal wifely duties that a woman would undertake in her relationship, and they can use that as leverage in a way to, I guess, make it so that women get the short end of the stick in a marriage. And I'm trying to be really ginger and use these terms with care, because I want everyone to know that, and I just want to put it out there, I'm definitely very pro-marriage. In fact, I would like to be married again. I even consider having more children. So I believe in marriage and how much of a blessing it is to us individually and to society. But I think, unfortunately, there are people out there who will just take advantage of that, man or woman. But I'm going to talk mainly from the perspective of a woman, because I'm a woman, and I'm going to speak from my experience, just to, again, drop some knowledge, insight, understanding into what maybe could be done a little bit differently. So I say all that to say that when I go into my next relationship, I would definitely be open to a prenuptial agreement, but it would have to be something that would protect both parties, not just me, in the case that someone decides on a whim, I don't want to be married anymore, marriage is not for me, and then they actually become abusive in that process, or they become greedy, or they say that divorce, you marry one person but you divorce a different person, and that was definitely what happened in my case. And in my case, it got so bad that I ended up just deciding to walk away from everything. The divorce was so contentious, so high conflict, that I was just like, you know what, God is a restorer. I'll sow this as a seed. I'll give. The Bible says in Luke 6:38, give and it shall be given unto you. I'll count this as a seed. God will take care of me and my children. So no pension, no 401k, no marital assets in terms of like real estate. I took on some of the debt, or if not a good deal of the consumer debt from our short-term rental business. So I definitely chose the short end of the stick, but it was somewhat under duress. And I know I didn't have to do that, but I just really wanted to have a fresh start and move on with my life. So that's why I would probably do things differently. And I just want to mention that if you do bring up a prenup, everybody can be up in arms, but if you frame it in the right way, it can actually be a tool to foster trust, love, care, and concern, because I'm okay with protecting my spouse from any future whims of me, just capriciously saying, I don't want to be married anymore, or doing something that would be untoward, or something that would, just violate the covenant of marriage that I swore before God and a bunch of witnesses I would uphold. So I'm totally okay with that. And I feel like the partner that's for me, they should definitely want to do the same. So I'm just going to talk about some of the reasons why, if you're a woman, you shouldn't be offended if your partner brings up a prenup. In fact, you should say, or I'm going to recommend that a good course of action would be to say, you know what, I think that's okay. Let's talk about clauses that are going to protect both of us. Okay, so this is what I would do differently, and these are some of the things you might want to think about if you are going to move forward with a prenup before you get married. Before I jump into the nitty-gritty of this video, I just want to take a quick moment to ask you a favor. If you can like this video, if you can subscribe to my channel, or even leave a comment, it really helps with my reach. And I also want to encourage you to check out some of the sponsored products and affiliate partners that I promote. If there's anything that you can use, whether it's website hosting services, travel insurance, home swap service, whatever it is, when I say it's time to hear from the sponsor, please listen. Please screenshot the QR code or click the links in the description, because it just helps me continue to bring useful personal finance content that can really reach thousands, or maybe more, and make lives better when it comes to managing money. So I really appreciate your viewership, and take a moment to hear from the sponsor if you don't mind. Creating a prenuptial agreement isn't always about mistrust. It can actually be a great conversation starter that can lead to a partnership built on mutual respect, fairness, and foresight. Hello Prenup is the leading online platform for creating affordable, fast, and comprehensive prenuptial agreements that can help you do just that. It allows couples to create state-specific, customized prenups for a flat fee of $599 with the option to add attorney services. The platform streamlines the process, taking about 1.5 hours to complete. Hello Prenup also offers e-signature and notarization services, making it convenient for couples to finalize their agreements from home. Created by family law attorneys, Hello Prenup ensures agreements meet state-specific requirements while allowing couples to tailor clauses to their needs. Because real love includes protecting one another, and that means preparing for all outcomes, even those we hope will never happen. To learn more, scan the QR code that you see on the screen. You can click the link below in the description, or you can visit my website, principlesofincrease.com/Hello Prenup. So in my case, my relationship definitely devolved into extremely abusive territory. And one day I'll be ready to share those details, but just suffice to say that it became a very dangerous situation. And because I was safety first minded, I just had to move around a lot. I had to walk away from a lot. So in a prenup, you can actually put clauses in there that give you some recourse should abuse or even infidelity come up in your relationship. And again, those are clauses that can benefit the man and the woman. So another reason that you may consider a prenup is that you can also add protections that will safeguard your efforts during the marriage. Again, in my case, I was pretty much a stay-at-home mom, but I really worked from home to side hustle, get us out of debt. I had plenty of time to research real estate options that did not involve us getting a mortgage. So I did really bring value to that relationship. And unfortunately, again, under duress, had to walk away from that. However, if you create some agreements that recognize that and make sure both people bringing value to the relationship are fairly compensated, again, especially if the relationship breaks down under the threat of like abuse or just high conflict, this can be super helpful. Another thing that a prenup can do is provide some support for a stay-at-home parent. So again, that was also my case. And ladies, if you're thinking of having kids and you want to stay home, this can be important because there is time, energy, and resources put towards raising your kids, and a prenup could include lump sum payments that will take in consideration the time you took off from work and the energy that you put towards having kids and raising them. So for those of you who are on your second, third, fourth, or fifth time around you getting married again, and you were able to successfully restabilize yourself financially and perhaps amass some assets, you can place clauses in your prenuptial agreement that just bring some clarity and, even if necessary, some division on assets that you both had before you got married. And then you can also protect any children that you have from previous relationships. So just some things to think about. So this one is really big for me, and this is probably my main interest in having a prenup, is that a prenuptial agreement can actually provide accountability in cases of infidelity or abuse. So if your partner decides to become abusive or they are unfaithful, and usually in those situations, it's actually not just harmful to be married or to continue the relationship, but it can in some cases get dangerous. And so that burden is put on the other spouse, the person who is being victimized by the abuser, to go and seek a divorce, which is costly. So in other words, there's some language you can put in your agreement that says, basically, if either one of us goes crazy, the financial burden of getting a divorce is going to be on the person who initiated the harmful behavior. And that's huge for me, honestly, because that was a big part of, if not the main reason that I got divorced. I was very happy being a wife and a mother. It was really a joy to do what I believe God put me on this earth to do. And when I had to deal with the heartbreak, the shame, the disappointment of dissolving my marriage when it became unviable because of the other party's actions, that seemed unfair to me, that I had to figure out how to find the money not only to get the divorce, but to sustain myself, because I got divorced through COVID. So things were going slow. So I had to figure out how to take care of my kids, how to handle my bills. I had to sometimes pay the mortgage on a home that I was not even living in. I had to do that because I realized that if my credit suffered post-divorce, it will be really hard for me to make a life for myself and my children. And I also got 100% custody of my kids. So again, it brought up just a whole financial mess that I never want to go through again. And if somebody loves you, I think they're willing to say, yes, I'm okay with protecting you against a future self that may become crazy. And again, I'm willing to do it, on my part as well. All right, I hope this list is helpful so far. If you don't mind, I want you to take a moment to listen to a quick message from one of the channel sponsors. Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Build a brand that lets you earn from anywhere with Bluehost. Whether you're a creator, an entrepreneur, or ready to start your online journey, Bluehost makes it easy. With AI-powered tools, managed WordPress hosting, free domains, and 24/7 expert support, you can create a website that grows with your vision. It's time to turn your ideas into income, and Bluehost is here to help you every step of the way. Start today for as little as $2.95 a month and watch your business thrive with Bluehost. To get started, you can click the Bluehost link in the video description, scan the QR code you see on the screen, or go to principlesofincrease.com/Bluehost. A prenup can also help define how expenses, savings, and investments are managed during your relationship. So again, in my case, we just put everything together in one pot. And again, I gladly do that again. However, when it was time to break up, I left the 401k that I had helped build up, and the real estate that I helped bring into the relationship. And so if I were to do it again, I probably would have gotten, I think it's called a spousal IRA, which allows you, if you're like a stay-at-home parent or stay-at-home spouse, you're not working, and you don't have access to an employer-sponsored retirement savings, then you can actually, as a spouse of someone who's working, have your own IRA in your own name. So that's something I didn't really know about, even though as a financial writer, I really didn't cover topics that had to do with what happens if your relationship, goes wrong, you have to get divorced, or whatever, flavor of things, that financial catastrophe that can come on people. I really didn't cover that as much. And of course, at the same time, I was caring for an elderly parent, went through a divorce. And so those are just things that I'm talking about more, but I don't want to go too much off into that tangent. But if you put this in agreement, you can, even if you decide to put everything together, you can have fair percentages of how things could be split up, and if you decide to part ways. So a good, healthy prenup it should not be grounds for sowing mistrust. It actually should be a way to reveal how much you can trust a person. So probably the last thing I want to mention is that a good, fair prenup should help you plan for your future together with your new partner. Maybe you'll start a business. Maybe you'll go back into investing. Maybe who knows what you'll do. Maybe you'll conquer the world, but again, should things go wrong or your relationship not survive, you just want to make sure that your collaborative efforts are just fairly compensated, across the board. So just to kind of sum it up, I would say that my decision to get a prenup in my next relationship isn't really about not trusting anyone, but it's just about making sure that both of us feel safe and protected, and that we can trust one another with our hearts, and how that is tied to our finances. Emotions are definitely tied to finances. So will I definitely 100% do this? I will have to pray about it, but I'm actually in favor of it if somebody wants to bring it up. And I would say I think it's okay if this person has assets and they have children and things they want to protect. As long as we're both all in on building a future together, I think we should be able to come together and create an agreement that just protects and loves and cares for both of us. So hopefully that was helpful for someone who maybe you're thinking about getting married. And just, I keep saying that's the last thing. I do want to say that your wedding vows, actually, if you're a believer, you're a Christian, and you believe the words that you speak and you believe in the vows that you give, your wedding vows should actually be enough to embody everything that I just mentioned. But this can be a good safeguard against your future self and that person's future self, again, if they just radically change on their views regarding marriage and relationships, which does happen. So again, I just want to put it out there. I'm definitely still pro-marriage, pro-love. I hope to do it again one day, have another partner. I'm open to kids, but I want to just make sure that I don't put my partner through undue duress is distress when it comes to money, and I don't want to go through that again. I realized that I put so much stuff, so much effort into the relationship that I had, and I really walked away from so much. Again, no regrets. But if there's a way that I can warn someone else and give them tips on how to maybe do things better, I definitely want to do that. So hopefully that video did that for you today. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate your viewership, and I'll catch you on the next video. So before I get into the next point, I want you to just take a really quick minute to hear from one of the channel's sponsors.